specifically Northwest State, our deadlines, things like that, a little bit of our summer term, things like that. If you guys ever want to reference back to this presentation, this is directly from the state's website, so you can always pull that up for reference if you need to.
And I am recording this, so we will have a link if you want to go back to listen to any of the questions or answers.
Okay, so what is College Credit Plus? So it's an Ohio program, so College Credit Plus goes for dual credit. So it goes for both your high school credit and it goes towards college credit, which is really great. So they earn it at the same time, and then students enroll in college courses, you adhere to the requirements of the college. So students in grades 7 through 12 are eligible for the program. They must complete an assessment exam, which can be determined eligible for College Credit Plus, and then they may apply to multiple institutions, public, private, that participate in the College Credit Plus program. You're just going to want to look and see what institutions offer that. And like I said, you can apply to multiple institutions. You may choose a variety of college level courses. So at Northwest State, we offer a bunch of different college level courses that you'd be eligible to take depending on where you fall with your academic testing. So we'll go more in depth on that a little bit later. But another requirement is obviously you do have to be an Ohio resident, which usually we don't have that issue, but it's just, again, one of the things about the program. So like I said, so this goes for dual credit, so it goes for both college credit and high school credit. So like what we like to say, so for one college 3 credit hour class, that usually goes for one high school unit. So it does go for the dual credit. And then you must successfully complete courses in order to earn the credit. So students may take classes in fall, spring, summer, whenever they would like, and then they take courses either at the high school, at the college campus, or online, which is usually a really popular method. Okay, so how students can participate in the program. So your first step is the student must be eligible for the College Credit Plus participation based on their assessment scores, which we'll go a little bit more in depth on that, but that's your ACT scores or AccuPlacer scores, test scores like that. So some of the examples, like I said, ACT, SAT, AccuPlacer, then there's a couple different other ones, and then each college has their own assessment that they use. So like specifically talking about Northwest State, of course, absolutely we accept the ACT if you've taken that, but we do offer a different assessment that's called AccuPlacer. It's similar to the ACT, just the really great thing is that it's not timed, so students can take as long as they need to, and then you know your scores instantly that day. We print them off right there and done for you. So you don't have all that craziness of punching down 5 minutes ago, that sort of thing. That doesn't happen with AccuPlacer. So it's just more of a user-friendly type assessment that we use at Northwest State, which I don't know the date offhand, but we are coming to Wayne Trace to offer that assessment, so you can take that day. Or if you would want to drive out to Northwest State, we do have a testing center where you can take that exam as well. Okay, so student scores must indicate that they are college level courses, at least in one subject area. So they must test in a one subject area, and then once they meet those state qualifications in that one subject area, then they can jump down to our qualifications for like comp, math, things like that. And college and universities will review those student scores, and we'll look at statewide standards and things like that. Our advisors will go through and see what kind of courses the student would be eligible for. If the student's scores are not college level, other conditions may be considered depending on the exam scores. If the student has a 3.0 GPA or a recommendation form or letter from the high school, then possibly they could be considered for the program. That's just something that I guess once the student tests that you can see if that is something you'd be interested in. Okay, so the second step to participate in CCP. So students must apply for admission. So I always tell students, even if you're kind of borderline thinking about doing the program, always just apply, get your application done. That way it's done in and out of the way. We have all your information in the system. That doesn't mean that you absolutely have to take College Credit Plus courses if you apply. Contact the college to learn more about their processes, paperwork, deadlines, things like that. Northwest State and Mrs. Brown's, we work hand in hand to get the students registered. So usually there's a lot of communication that goes back and forth. And then overall, as a college, we do have the final decision to admit the student or not. Okay, so your third step, so if the student is considered eligible and the student has been admitted into the college or university, we'll discuss those different courses. Like I said, we have an advisor at the college just for Wayne Trace. So we'll go and look at the student score and see what classes they can be eligible for based on their AccuPlacer, ACT scores, things like that. Okay, so how many courses can a student take? This is usually a pretty popular question within the CCP program. So since these courses can satisfy both high school and graduation requirements, school counselors, they kind of help students understand the requirements, and the course substitutions, they kind of work all those details out. And then schools may have additional requirements in addition to the state minimum. So we'll talk more about that here in a little bit. Okay, so as the college advisors, we help students know what classes they can take based on those Accuplacer scores. We will understand, like, we'll let them know, like, oh, obviously you can't take Comp 2 without taking the Comp 1. Maybe, like, a certain, math class has a certain prereq, science class, things like that. We'll kind of go more in depth once we know what the student wants to take, but we'll go over, their assessment scores, course prereqs, and if it's a level 1 or a level 2 course. So this just happened within the last couple of years. So a level 1 course, those are usually your more general education courses. A lot of things that don't have prerequisites, like business courses, things like that. And then depending on what kind of courses would be a level 2, usually those are classes that you can't take without taking the level 1. So again, we'll go more in depth once the student qualifies for the program on those. So students must complete their first 15 credit hours in the level 1 courses, so that's again something that changed within the last couple of years. So that includes usually transferable courses. So a lot of our courses at Northwest State are what we call higher education tagged approved, which means transfer assurance guide. So that means that they'll transfer usually to any public institution in the state of Ohio. So we get a lot of questions about that. So these courses will transfer to other universities. This also includes courses in like IT, computer science, anatomy, foreign language, things like that. And then usually these courses that are part of a technical certificate. So sometimes, every once in a great while, we'll have a student that finishes an associate's degree or certificate while they're in high school. That rarely happens, but we do see it every couple of years. And then courses that are part of a 15 or 30-hour credit pathway, and then courses in study skills, academic, or career success. So again, what kind of courses can a student take? So they'll start off with those level 1 type courses. And then on our website, we have a list of all of our college level 1 courses for College Credit Plus students. So you can take a glance at that. If you just go to our website and go to the College Credit Plus link, you can pull up all those level 1 courses that a student would be eligible to take. And then again, once those student completes the 15 credit hours within the level 1, then he or she can move to the level 2 courses, as long as they meet the prereqs and the qualifications and things like that. Okay, some of the courses you can't take in CCP. So like a private one-on-one course with an instructor or like an independent study, unfortunately that's not allowed in CCP. Courses with high fees, like study abroad courses, special education, pass or fail grade courses, or remedial religious courses, unfortunately you cannot take in the College Prep Plus program. And that's from the state, not from Northwest State. Okay, so College Prep Plus grades are earned in the college course. It's the same grade that will go on your high school transcript. So since it goes for both the dual credit, that'll substitute for your senior English, junior English, whatever. So that will be the grade that you receive on your high school transcript. So not only does it go on your college transcript, but again, it goes on the high school transcript. And then that college transcript, that follows you forever. So not to be negative or anything, but if a student would unfortunately do poorly in the class, that then, would follow you forever. Kind of you can't take it away once you take that college course. And then too, that could maybe possibly bring down, since it goes towards your GPA, that could bring down like class rank, GPA, if you're looking to get like a certain graduation honor, things like that. So again, not to be negative, but just some things that we have to talk about and that you have to realize when you're doing the program. Okay, so more about the grades. So if your high school uses a weighted grading scale for advanced placement, again, since it goes for the dual credit, that possibly could bring down your GPA, class rank, things like that. And then College Credit Plus courses that are in a subject area will be used during the same scale. Okay, so students that take College Credit Plus courses in subject areas that will satisfy their graduation requirements, and then students still must complete the end of course exams for English, math, and science. Students can be enrolled in up to 30 credit hours, including high school courses. So we like to use that little chart there. So 30 high school credits times 3 equals maximum CCP credit hours. So the most CCP credits you can take in your lifetime is 120. So once you kind of hit that 120, you're kind of maxed out, no more CCP. So, but hardly rarely we ever have students hit that 120. student enrolls more than 30 credit hours for the year, the school will discuss with the student on either to drop the course or maybe they need to pay for the course themselves. Sometimes we do have students who do self-pay, so we'll discuss that if a student is getting close to that deadline. So if a student enrolls in more than the 30 credit hour and pays for the course, the family, they are responsible for that, and they will assume the cost of tuition, books, fees, any lab fees, that sort of thing. Kind of everything would be on you at that point. So a little bit about the difference between college and high school. I know that there was a sheet out there that kind of goes over this, but just to kind of quickly go over that. So a lot of times tests in high school, a lot of material is covered, and then you're getting, end of the course at the chapter, it might be only 1 or 2 chapters, where in college it might be 5, 6 chapters, might be more reading, and fewer tests, things like that. And then, like I said, tests are usually given over, more chapters rather than less chapters. So it's just something that you're going to want to pay attention to once you get your course syllabus. You'll get that in the beginning of your class. You can see when those tests are due, when those papers are due, and how much material is going to be over that subject area. Okay, so study time, so required homework. That usually ranges between 1 to 3 hours a day in high school, where in college, in higher ed, we like to say for every 2 to 3 hours of homework, you should probably spend 3 to 5 hours outside of class doing studying. So just something for your student, if they're really kind of getting by without studying, college might be a little bit different for them. In high school, a lot of time information is provided in class, where in college, a lot of that is provided outside of class. You have to do a lot of your own research. You have to do all the readings on your own. So again, just something you might want to be cautious of. You might have to do more assignments and research and things outside the classroom. So in high school, a lot of times you get like numerous tests, quizzes, homeworks, things like that. Where in college, you might only be 3 papers and 2 tests, and that's it. And that's your grade for the whole year. It's just those 5 assignments. So again, looking at the syllabus, seeing how many assignments you have, how many chapters, things like that. It's just something you're going to want to be aware of when you're doing the program. Okay, so to talk a little bit about the parent role. So in high school, a lot of times parents are really involved in their child's education. Where in college, unfortunately, due to FERPA, we can't tell if you would call our admissions office and say, hey, how's so-and-so doing in the class? We can't tell you, unfortunately, just due to FERPA and that sort of thing, which is your Privacy Act for the student. Even if they're 15, 16 years old, we can't tell you. If you try to call a professor, email a professor, same thing, they're not going to tell you, they're just going to ignore the email. So just something to kind of be aware of, that unfortunately we can't really provide you much with information as the parent. So what are the benefits in participating? So when you're in the College Prep Plus program, it's pretty much free college. There's no cost to the student or the family. And then students, like I said, earn the college credit and the high school credit at the same time. It gives students that opportunity to get a head start on their college, so that way when they graduate high school and they go off to college, they don't have to take their Comp 1, they don't have to take a math, a science, things like that. So it's a really great program to get a head start on your college education, absolutely. So students can also experience the college life and kind of the college classroom setting. And then students also save a lot of money by doing the program on tuition, textbooks, things like that. Okay, so consequences for underperforming. So if a student was to unfortunately fail a class, then as the parent, you would be responsible for paying for the tuition for the class. So that is a big one that a lot of times that if a student does fail, that's on the family's responsibility to pay for that course. And then, like I said earlier, these grades follow you forever. It goes on your transcript. You can't take it away. So that's the other big thing by doing the program. If a student fails or withdraws often, this might impact their future financial aid. So when they go off to college, that might affect their SAP, which is your future financial aid, because they've already started college. So they already have that GPA. They already have that transcript started. So again, just something to be mindful of when you're doing the program. And then if a student performs poorly, they may be placed on CCP probation. So this is the new thing that came out this year. And then CCP dismissal or academic probation or dismissal by the college. So if they were to underperform in the course. So a little bit about the probation. A student may be placed on CCP probation if he or she earns 2.0 GPA or less in CCP courses, or withdraw from 2 or more in an academic term. So that's something too you want to be mindful of. If your student already withdrawn from one course, they might be in trouble if they are looking to withdraw from another. While on CCP probation, the student may enroll in one college credit plus term for a college term, semester, or quarter, and they may not enroll in college courses in the same subject which the student previously earned that D or F in the course. If a student was put on CCP probation, do not increase their college GPA to 2.0 during their probation. They may, like I said, be put on dismissal. And while on dismissal, students may not enroll in any college credit plus courses. There is an appeal that you can file for, so there's a CCP appeal that you can apply for. So if one college term on the CCP dismissal, students may submit an appeal to request a high school or middle school to allow participation in college credit plus. So that's something too that you can, if your student does get to this point, this is something that you can look into. So what are the expenses for college credit plus? So any public or university that it will be no cost to the student, so no tuition, no fees, no books, that sort of thing. If you do want to go with a private university to do your college credit plus, sometimes they do charge a small tuition, so you're just going to want to check with that university and see what that would be. Some optional expenses for the student or family, so that would be like parking, transportation, things like that. So again, that kind of varies from college to college. So at Northwest State, if your student was enrolled in the College Credit Plus program, you don't have to pay for parking, but just depending on what university they would decide to go to. So a little bit about the support services for students. So once you're enrolled in the College Credit Plus program, you are a college student. An instructor isn't going to know if you're in high school or not. They just kind of see a name on a roster, and they're going to treat you just like any other 30, 40, 50-year-old. So high school counselors continue to provide assistance during the College Credit Plus student program, and also with our college advisors. But colleges must provide the same academic support. So all of our tutoring services, that would all be available for you as a College Credit Plus student. So I know a lot of students like to take classes online. So what you can do too, if you don't want to drive all the way out to college to do your tutoring, what you can do is you can email the Success Center, and you can email your paper, attach it, and they'll send it back with comments, feedback, that sort of thing, usually within like 48 hours. So that's an option too if you want just a second pair of eyes to look over your college paper. They're more than happy to do that. Or too, if you want a face-to-face tutoring session, you can always come to the college and do that as well. So athletic eligibility, we get a lot of that at the college, so how does this affect that? So to confirm your school is an Ohio HSA member, so usually all Ohio high schools are an OHSAA member, but because it goes for the dual credit, it goes for the high school and the college credit, if they would underperform in the class, this could bring down their GPA, which makes them ineligible for athletics. So just something, if you do have a student athlete and they're really into their sports and things like that, that this might be a consideration for you. So know that the CCP summer term, those courses, those do go towards their fall eligibility. So if they do decide to take a summer course, that could go towards their fall eligibility for sports. So kind of throwing that out there as well. Okay, so transfer courses, we've talked a little bit about this, but just to kind of go more in depth. So a lot of times CCP students are taking those general education courses. So usually those transfer between public universities, so any BG, UT, things like that, those will transfer. I guess the private universities get a little bit stickier, but that's when you're going to want to communicate if you know like absolutely your son or daughter wants to go to so-and-so, you're just going to want to have those conversations. You can also check out transfer credit, ohio.gov. That's a really popular website we use in higher ed, so that's a website you can go to. You can plug in, Northwest State Community College Comp 1 course, put in, University of Toledo, and see how it transfers. So that's an option for you as well. Okay, so being college ready. So being college ready is more than being academically ready. You're going to want to make sure that your student, has good time management skills. You're going to want to make sure that they have organizational skills, things like that, that they're emotionally ready, things like that. Because like I said, this is college, and a college professor is going to treat them like a college student rather than a high school student. So just something to kind of be mindful of. Okay, so what look at the deadline. So this is a big deadline, this is a state deadline, so April 1st, 2019. So your intent to participate form, I always tell students, just like the application, if you are even remotely thinking about considering doing College Credit Plus, get your intent to participate form in by April 1st, because that's, like I said, a state deadline, you really can't go back on that. It's kind of crazy to do that. So definitely, if you're interested, fill that out within the next couple days, that way it's just done and out of the way. You're going to want to check your ACT dates and SAT dates, so if you need to retake the ACT, you can do that, or you can take the AccuPlacer as well. And then test early to meet the college and university deadlines, just so then you need to see if you need to retest or not. Check your college's deadlines for admission, which I believe is in all those paperwork, and I have that too if you need that. I brought that with me tonight if you want to look at our deadlines. And then find out about your assessment testing requirements. So all of our testing things, I have that as well. All of our deadlines and test scores, what you would need to meet to qualify for the program. So you're going to want to check that with your college and university. And same with the summer semester deadline, because that does creep up pretty fast when we're going through the school year. Okay, so if you have any questions, like I said, this is on the Ohio Higher Ed website, so you can always check that out if you need a little refresher on the general information about CCP. Okay, so really quickly, I'll just go through College Credit Plus at Northwest State. So what kind of learner are you? So we offer multiple ways that students can take courses at our college. So you can either come on campus, take your traditional face-to-face college setting if that's something you desire. The hybrid, that is a really popular class with the CCP. So all your whole class would be online, all your tests, quizzes, papers, you'd submit all your coursework, things like that would be online. Hybrid, that's kind of the best of both worlds, so it's both online and face-to-face. So that's, like I said, it's a little bit of both. And then at the high school, so that's another option too, that College Credit classes are within your high school. Okay, so a little bit about our summer term. So if your student is thinking about doing a summer course, they're going to want to do, our classes are either 8 or 12 weeks. So it's the same amount of material that would be in your 16-week course. So like your typical college semester, like your fall and spring semester. So it's just condensed a little bit, but I promise it's the same amount of information. So our 8-week term, that goes from June 3rd to July 26th, and then our 12-week term from May 13th to August 2nd. And then our summer and fall schedule, that'll be available online on March 11th. So you can take a look at that online on March 11th. Okay, a little bit about our applications and deadlines. So first, that intent to participate, that April 1st, get that done out of the way, like I said, even if you're kind of on the borderline. Same thing with the College Credit Plus application. So you're just going to want to go to our website and fill that out. It takes 10 minutes. And once you start answering the questions, it'll filter you in as a College Credit Plus student. Again, I always tell students, if you're on the verge about doing the program, just go ahead and do it, get out of the way, it doesn't hurt you. Your next step would be to submit an official high school transcript. And then you're going to want to submit your ACT or AccuPlacer scores, or test with the AccuPlacer or ACT. That would be your fourth step. So again, that intent to participate April 1st, so that if you are looking to do a summer class, we need your application and consent form, which I believe we're out on the table by March 1st for fall term, April 15th, and for spring term, November 1st. You need to have your ACT or AccuPlacer done by May 1st for summer, for fall, July 1st, and then spring, December 2nd. Also, you're going to want to check with your high school because sometimes they have different deadlines, like if they have certain paperwork turned in before everyone leaves for summer, that sort of thing. So just always have that communication with your counselor. So kind of step by step to wrap it all together really quick. Complete your application and the consent form, which is out there, or I do have some with me if we need more. Schedule your AccuPlacer or your ACT scores. Complete the online advising and orientation workshop. So once your student is admitted into the college and they are qualified for the College Credit Plus program and they do want to take classes, they'll do our online orientation. It takes like 20, 25 minutes. And just kind of a general college orientation, welcome to Northwest State, that sort of thing. If they're interested in taking an online class, they'll do the same thing, but it's more online based. It's called our online learning assessment. So if your student wants to take an online course, they will have to take that orientation. It's just a separate online orientation just to make sure they can web through our portal and things like that. They're gonna wanna meet with their guidance counselor, select classes, and then you can always come out to the college and meet with your CCP advisor. Okay, so my contact information is there, or so you can always reach out to Ann Feather. She's the College Credit Plus advisor for Wayne Trace. So you can always just call our admissions office and we can get you in contact with her if you have any questions, or anything like that. Does anyone have any questions now? I know it's kind of information overload, but does anyone have a dying burning question?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Lexi, would you like to talk about today?
So for the well, I should introduce myself first. I'm Lexi Grotehouse. I'm the graduate assistant in admissions at the University of Findlay. I am not the direct contact person. I have a pamphlet with Rebecca's information. She's the direct contact. To apply, our application is online. The deadline for our summer term is April 1st, and for fall is June 1st. In order to be eligible, you have to have a 2.5 GPA and either a 250 on the Next Gen Reading AccuPlacer or 20 on the ACT. And then for the course that we offer here, Rebecca's going to be coming here to give the AccuPlacer, and regardless of if you take the ACT or not, you still have to take the AccuPlacer. In addition to the class we offer here, we do offer classes on campus and online if you're interested in that. I think that's it.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Now I'm going to give a little bit of my spiel. I tried to, on the blue paper, narrow it down specifically. So the very first one is if you are a returning student. So if you have already applied to Northwest and you have taken the AccuPlacer, whether you have or haven't taken a class, you are considered a returning student. If you have never applied to Northwest and you have not taken the AccuPlacer through Northwest, then you would be that next section, about the middle, the Northwest new student. And then on the back, so I have steps for each of those. And then on the back, I went through the CCP eligibility and the Northwest eligibility. She touched base with that, but I wanted, it's kind of confusing because it's really two different things. So you can be a Northwest student, but you may not be able to take a Northwest class depending on the scores of that application. And then in the middle starts Findlay. So for those juniors who are in advanced math and as a senior, they'll be taking calculus next year. That is the step for them. So if you're not a junior, but you're going to be taking it as a senior, then that comes your junior year. So each year we do this, so we do for the following year. So here's the requirement for each of those. We do have some students who take College Credit Plus through other places, UNOH, Defiance College, Wright State, Lake Campus. Each campus has a different requirement and different deadlines. I pinpoint these two because this is the majority of our students. So I work with students. If you are considering another campus, then we need to talk about that. Those requirements, I need to make contact with those people and all that kind of good stuff. But so this is a checklist so you know what you need to do for you. And then this is the magic paper she was talking about, April 1st. Every student, whether you have taken College Credit Plus or not taken College Credit Plus, every year this paper needs to be turned in by April 1st for the following year. If it is not turned in by April 1st, you are not eligible to participate in College Credit Plus. That is a state requirement. There is a clause in there that we can accept it beyond April 1st. And the school superintendent and principal and I have talked about it, and that would only be for very, very, very extreme cases. And we have turned a student down who turned it in late. So that would only be for extreme cases. So I tell students, don't wait until the last minute, because if you're homesick with the flu, or you are going on a Washington, D.C. trip, and your bus is heading out when it's due, it's due. So you got to make sure that it is turned in prior to that. A little bit about my experience from my end with students in College Credit Plus. Both of these facilities do a fantastic job of communication. They work with me, they work with the students, they work with the teacher, Mr. Bonley. But it is a college class, and there are some things that are not in our control. If a student is doing an online class and they submit a paper late, it's late. If they submit a paper but it doesn't go through, that is still their responsibility to make sure that it was submitted on time. And we have had those happen. We had a student who was submitting his final, shut his computer before it was submitted, never checked again, and it was a 0. We've had students who have had a professor that have had 2 different calendars, one for tests and quizzes and one for homework, and they didn't realize it was in the syllabus, but they didn't read the syllabus all the way through, and so they ended up missing assignments. We have had students who have had a professor that they absolutely, positively did not like. That is where college life comes in, and we really don't have any control over that. The classes do not cost, like she said, that's something that the school pays for unless you fail, or if you withdraw after the 14th day. At that time, our agreement with Northwest has changed, so some of you who have older students, the cost was very inexpensive. It was like $80. It was not very much. It is now $499.65. So that's a big difference. So I make announcements, I write notes up on the board. This is the date you have to drop the class if you're gonna drop it, so that they know, and I let them know what that cost is because it's very expensive. The other thing she touched base on the summer classes. It's very tricky with summer classes and sports eligibility. So that is something that if students want to take classes in the summer, we really need to sit down and talk about and look at their schedule to make sure, because you have to be passing 5 credits to be eligible according to OHSAA. But you can only take 30 hours. So that 30 hours isn't from August to May, it is from June to the end of May. So those summer classes count in that 30 hours. So if you get to the second semester and you've used your 30 hours, you aren't going to be in the 5 credits. You see what I'm saying? So you got to be careful with that. And so we talk about that. I sketch it out. Any student who I think is even getting close to the 30 hours, we write out their schedule for the year and we figure out where that is, because we don't want to end up with somebody deciding to take a 4-credit class and that puts them at 31 hours and then you have to pay for it. So we take a look at that and sketch that out. So I have said this before and I'll say it again, our students do very well with the online classes through Northwest. They do very well calculus with Mr. Bonley. A lot of times the struggles that our students have with College Credit Plus classes is not because of the content, but because of the technology piece. Again, shutting that before it's submitted, not making sure it's submitted to the right website. We had one student who had to have a paper turned in 2 different ways, and he only turned it in one way, didn't turn it in the other way, and he got a 0. So the technological piece does play a part when you're talking online. Most of our kids do online just because of the distance of it, but we do have some students that do go to campus. It's very hard to do a combination because 45 minutes is the closest campus, 40 minutes to us. So anyway, anybody have any questions for me? So Northwest is coming to do the AccuPlacer. So these are some deadline differences. The AccuPlacer, they are coming, and I can't find the date real quick, but March 21st. So Northwest is coming on March 21st. In order to take the AccuPlacer at Wayne Trace, all of the paperwork and the application needs to be turned in by March 7th. If it's not turned in by March 7th, they don't have time to get student IDs, and they have to have the student IDs in order to be able to take the AccuPlacer. So all those deadlines are specified on here, but March 7th is the key to take the AccuPlacer through Northwest on the 21st, and then Findlay is coming on March 26th. So we will have some students that are taking the AccuPlacer both times. So those juniors who have not taken College Credit Plus but want to take it can do that. And then everybody does need to take the Findlay AccuPlacer in order to do the calculus class. Even if you have taken Northwest, you do have to take the Findlay. And I say that because nobody has a score to get into the calculus. So, yes.
How do you, if your child already has a student ID with Northwest, but you can't remember their ID, is there a place they can go to find their student ID number?
Yes, and that is a magical place, and a place that they know most everything, and it's called the guidance office.
Okay. So send them there.
So send them to me. They cannot give that over the phone
Okay,
to the student or the family, but they can give it to me.
perfect, thank
Yes.
you.
Yes. So, I talk a lot with Northwest and Findlay. We do a lot of communication to make sure, because we obviously want this to be a great experience for our students. It is a wonderful opportunity. We have students who do graduate college early. They get to graduate, most of them about a semester ahead of time, and that's a great opportunity for them. So we want to make it as smooth as possible. But it's still a college class, and you still have to be college ready. And that's as much as we love our students, if they don't turn stuff in on time, there's zero we can do. So the magic key, April 1st is the deadline to even be part of College Credit Plus. But the key to all of the paperwork really is March 7th to take the test here at Wayne Trace. And if it's just Findlay, then that would be March 26th. They come on the 26th, March 18th for Findlay. So really, if you did March 7th, that would be great. I am not going to be here the next 2 days. I'm on my way to Columbus. But students can still bring these to Mrs. Saylor if they want to drop them off then. So with Northwest, please, you'll go through each step along with Findlay. They do have to apply online to both of those. I do not have access to that. I think I do get to see a Google form for when students apply, but I don't get to see that through Northwest. So I usually end up asking Ann to make sure everybody's done it. But that's kind of tricky because there are multiple steps in here for them and for us. Any other questions? Anybody have any other questions? Okay, thank you very much.